All right, friends, we are going to finish the BFG today. The last chapter of the BFG. The title of the chapter is The Author. Every country in the world that had in the past been visited by the foul man-eating giants sent telegrams of congratulation and thanks to the BFG and to Sophie. Kings and presidents and prime ministers and rulers of every kind showered the enormous giant and the little girl with compliments and thank yous, as well as all sorts of medals and presents. The ruler of India sent the BFG a magnificent elephant, the very thing he had been wishing for all his life. The king of Arabia sent them a camel each. The Lama of Tibet sent them a llama each. Wellington sent them 100 pairs of wellies each. Panama sent them beautiful hats. The king of Sweden sent them a barrel full of sweet and sour pork. Jersey sent them pullovers. There was no end to the gratitude of the world. The queen herself gave orders that a special house with tremendous high ceilings and enormous doors should immediately be built in Windsor Gray Park next to her own castle for the BFG to live in. And a pretty little cottage was put up next door for Sophie. The BFG's house was to have a special dream-storing room with hundreds of shelves in it where he could put his royal bottles. What is more, he was given the title of the Royal Dream Blower. He was allowed to go galloping off to any place in England on any night of the year to blow his splendid fizz wizards in through the windows to sleeping children. And letters poured into his house by the million from children begging him to pay them a visit. Meanwhile, tourists from all over the globe came flocking to gaze down in wonder at the 9 horrendous man-eating giants in the great pit. They came especially at feeding time, when the snozcumbers were being thrown down to them by the keeper, and it was a pleasure to listen to the howls and growls of horror coming up from the pit as the giants began to chew upon the filthiest tasting vegetable on earth. Here's the picture. You can see the giant's castle that was built for the giant, and this must be the cottage, I think, over here for Sophie. There was only one disaster. 3 silly men who had drunk too much beer for lunch decided to climb over the high fence surrounding the pit, and of course they fell in. There were yells of delight from the giants below, followed by the crunching of bones. The head keeper immediately put up a big notice on the fence saying, "It is forbidden to feed the giants." And after that, there were no more disasters. And there's a picture right here. The BFG expressed a wish to learn how to speak properly, and Sophie herself, who loved him as she would a father, volunteered to give him lessons every day. She even taught him how to spell and to write sentences, and he turned out to be a splendid, intelligent pupil. Pupil is a synonym for student. In his spare time, he read books. He became a tremendous reader. He read all of the Charles Dickens, who he no longer called Dahl's Chickens, and all of Shakespeare, and literally thousands of other books. He also started to write essays about his own past life. When Sophie read some of them, she said, "These are very good. I think perhaps one day you could become a real writer."
"Oh, I would love that," cried the BFG. "Do you think I could?"
"I know you could," Sophie said. "Why don't you start by writing a book about you and me?"
"Very well," the BFG said. "I'll give it a try."
So he did. He worked hard on it, and in the end, he completed it. Rather shyly, he showed it to the queen. The queen read it aloud to her grandchildren. Then the queen said, "I think we ought to get this book printed properly and published so that other children can read it. This was arranged." Oh, sorry. She's not talking anymore. "This was arranged, but because the BFG was a very modest giant, he wouldn't put his own name on it. He used somebody else's name instead." But where, you might ask, is this book that the BFG wrote? It's right here. You've just finished reading it. And there is the BFG. Sophie. Finishing writing his book. And here is a little ad for another book by Roald Dahl for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. Matilda. All books also by Roald Dahl. James and the Giant Peach. Fantastic Mr. Fox. The Twits, and this book is called The Witches. George's Marvelous Medicine, Danny the Champion of the World. A lot of blurbs you could be reading. Roald Dahl, Boy Tales of Childhood and Going Solo. The Enormous Crocodile. The Magic Finger. That's a possible new read aloud. You have to watch the other video. If you haven't already, you have to watch the other video for Morning Journal Do Now. I introduced 7 new books. You need to vote on one for me. Give me a good reason, what you want next. And the Magic Finger is one of the possibilities because I brought it home with me. Actually, I had a copy at home. The Giraffe and the Pelly and Me. I was having a hard time reading that one backwards. SEO Trot. I haven't read that one. That's all. And then back here is Roald Dahl. Picture of what he looks like. It says Roald Dahl was a spy, an ace fighter pilot, chocolate historian, and medical inventor. He was also the author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda the BFG, and many more brilliant stories. He remains the world's #1 storyteller. The illustrator is Quentin Blake. He's a well-known artist whose work has made him popular on both sides of the Atlantic. He has illustrated most of Roald Dahl's children's books, as well as many others. So he's worked with Roald Dahl and other authors. He lives in London, where he teaches illustration at the Royal College of Art. And that, my friends, is the end of our book. Thank you to Angelia and her family for letting us borrow this. If you remember, we started out this book when Mrs. Hadjiapostoli was our mystery reader, and she brought it in and she let me borrow it. And I brought it home. So Mrs. Hadjiapostoli, I'll send you a note about returning this to you. Thank you for letting me borrow it. All right, my lovies, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. If we don't start our new read aloud on Monday, we will definitely start it on Tuesday. I have some other things we might do on Monday instead, but we'll have to wait and see how Miss Fletcher's weekend goes. There will definitely be something for you to listen to. There should be something for you to listen to on Monday. If I don't have all the votes tallied for the new book, I have something else in mind. So it'll be a surprise. You have to wait and see what Monday's video is. So have a great weekend, guys. I'm not sure how the weather's supposed to be. Hopefully it'll be nice. You can go outside. It's been pretty cool for spring. I miss you to pieces. Have an awesome weekend, and I will see you on Monday.